Hello, welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live, brought to you by Scottish Water. Every save counts, on the pitch and off it. Keep showers short, only boil what you need, and don't leave the tap running. Goals matter, but water is always worth saving. Search Scottish Water today. I'm delighted to say, all the way from North Carolina, I'm joined by Keith Jackson and Scott McDermott.
All the way
Hi,
from
guys.
the other end of the hotel.
Yeah, the lobby.
I meant we're in North Carolina, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Oh, how do you think, man?
Bit deflating, isn't it?
Not amazing.
I'm wearing black for a reason. The death of Scotland's World Cup bid, slow death of Scotland's World Cup bid.
So this is the agonising bit, isn't it? The bit that we didn't want. Sitting about. We're basically shuffling around the Green Mile, the World Cup's Green Mile, with chains in our ankles, waiting for somebody to press the button in the electric chair.
And
It's horrible.
And in typical Scottish fashion, every result that we need to go our way is completely gone against us.
Completely, including
Listen, I'm sick
Ecuador
of
beating
this.
Germany.
Ecuador beat Germany. Look, do you know something? I'm sick to the back teeth. Oh no, Paraguay have got 0-0 with Australia. Oh, disaster. Papua New Guinea. If Papua New Guinea can take a point off Mauritius, we've got an outside chance. Who cares? Who cares? Is that what we're reduced to here? It's a nonsense. So you can leave me out. We're out the World Cup. It's finished. It's over. And honestly, if somebody mentions, oh, there's another game, another set of results, it's not going to happen. We're actually reduced, and I find it embarrassing, actually. And I would imagine that Steve Clarke surely must find it embarrassing that here we all are looking at, you know,
he said we were going up the road.
Yeah, anyway. He did, to be fair. I thought that was a curious comment in itself, right enough. But, you know, well, these are games that when the whole schedule came out at the start of the World Cup, you'd actually say, right, I shoot myself in the head rather than watch that one and that one. These are the ones I can't be bothered watching. And you could get brownie points for saying, no, it's all right, I'm not watching the World Cup tonight. Because you wouldn't open the curtains to watch these games. And now we're hanging in every kick for absolute dross. And I'm afraid that we have to count ourselves among this World Cup's absolute dross. It's not good. And there's a lot that we probably need to unpack over the next wee while looking back on it. This is the World Cup kind of wrap-up, Hotline Live. And there's quite a lot to discuss, Dan. There's quite a lot to get into. And probably starting with where this leaves Scotland, where this leaves Steve Clarke. To me, we're heading back to Scotland, having come to this campaign talking about no regrets. We're going to be bold. We're going to be different. It's going to be great this time, Donald Trump style. It wasn't great. It wasn't bold. It wasn't even different. It was just more of the same, and it's leaving a bad taste in the mouth because yet again we get to get evicted off the premises while the rest of them are actually the fun's just starting. I mean, the World Cup used to be about 32 teams. So this little phase that we've just been through here, as silly games, is just to get it down to the number it would have been in the first instance, and we can't make that. It's not been fun. These last couple of days have not been fun. We're back in Charlotte. By the way, I have to tell you, the press centre at Charlotte that has been, you know, we've been here 28 days now. That the press centre at Charlotte open every day that we've been here. Interviews, you know, people going out the way. The place is shut down. They've shut it down. There's no access, no photos, no party. It's over. It's over, and it's sad.
We've got so many comments coming in already, and as you say, Keith, there's so much for us to unpack. But a lot of the comments already are on Steve Clarke and his future as Scotland manager and where this leaves him, I guess. Should we maybe start on him? Let me throw a few of these comments at you. John Paul says, Senegal winning, bye-bye Clarke. He also says, Clarke played to beat Haiti and lose 1-0 to the other two and sneak through. It's embarrassing tactics. Andrew says, to think Clarke has got a 4-year contract when my beloved Scots are struggling to pay the bills is appalling. Control Alt Left says, save the pods for the Euros because it's on repeat with Clarke. I thought trying the same thing over and over was madness. And this one, Andrew says, Keith has gained legendary status as the man who trolled Clarke, but he follows up with saying there cannot be a grimmer moment in Scottish football history. And just finally, Bare Necessity says, so much for having learned lessons.
That's the frustrating bit.
Aye, sorry, I was just going to say, was I naive, guys, for coming into this thinking we would have learned lessons, thinking that this would be different?
No, I don't think you were naive, because that's what we were.
We were told.
That's what we were promised. After the last year, we thought after Euro 2024, it couldn't get any worse. Not couldn't get any lower than that in terms of the performances in those 3 games. And as you say, the message since then has been, no, we will be better. We will be better next time. And as Jacko says, it just hasn't really happened. And look, Steve Clarke will rightly get a lot of the blame and a lot of the flack. But this is a collective thing. Steve Clarke, the players, staff, everybody ultimately has failed at this World Cup, because the singular goal, singular aim in this tournament was to get into the knockout phase and make history. And look, there's an argument to say we did have a really tough group, and I know that's not what people want to hear, but we did with Brazil and Morocco in it. However, other countries with similarly tough groups.
Every other group's got 2 pretty big hitters in it.
Aye.
So, it's
right,
two pretty big hitters, and then two struggles.
Other countries,
and we're one of the struggles.
Other countries have found a way. Other countries have found a way to score goals and get points on the board, and we've not been able to do it. And it is so disappointing, because I think me and Jacko spoke about it last night. You think of how positive we felt after the warm-up games, Curacao, and then especially Bolivia in New Jersey. So positive, that performance, Scott McTominay strutting his stuff, controlling the game. Andy Robertson, Ryan Christie down the left, flying, the 2 strikers, defence looking solid. Well, I know Bolivia are no great shakes, but you came out of that game in New Jersey thinking, right, we're ready for this World Cup. It is going to be different, because we're playing with a bit more verve, a bit more style, a bit more attacking, a bit more attacking intent. But yet again, for whatever reason, whether it's nerves, whether it's instructions for the manager, whether it's the game plan, the players just haven't done it. And I say players, there's probably only a few with pass marks. Lewis Ferguson being one of them, head and shoulders our best player.
I agree with that.
Who's really enhanced his reputation even further. But I think you could probably pick on one hand the others that have kind of done themselves justice in America, and that's that'll be hugely disappointing for a lot of these players, because they talked a good game before, in the build up to it, and it just hasn't happened for them.
Well, look, the comments that are coming in are on Clarke. I think I'll go through a couple more in a wee moment, but I think we've got a clip of Clarke from the press conference the other day. I think he's addressing you, Keith. I've not actually seen the clip, but let's have a watch.
He's been doing it all the way through the tournament.
Steve, it's not often you seem frustrated or even angry with your players. It feels like that tonight.
I'm definitely not angry, and I'm not prickly. I think that's one of the words you like as well. I'm definitely not that either. Yeah. You can finish if you want. You finish your question.
No, I was going to ask you, are you angry?
I'm disappointed for them. I'm disappointed for them because they didn't reach the levels that they can reach. I think we all know that. Anybody that's watched this team over the last few years knows that we didn't reach the levels that we can reach. Poor result. You give a team like Brazil the chances that we give them the game, you expect to get punished, and that's what happened. Chances at the moment, I think we're probably going home.
Ross in the comments says, don't know what you guys think.
Sound very prickly there, did he?
Aye, I was going to say, he's trying really hard
not the slightest bit prickly.
Aye, I know.
I'm not angry and I'm not prickly, said the most prickly man in Florida.
Ross writes in saying, I don't know what you guys think, but Steve Clarke's been nothing but shambolic. Walking away from the media when asking questions is embarrassing in my eyes. Sack him now, he's a failure. Control-Alt-Lift says he should be sacked for walking out in interviews, never mind the performances. David Gray says the Tartan Army have been almost bankrupted themselves, but Clarke doesn't want to answer questions. Pathetic. What have you guys made then? You guys are the ones that deal with them first hand. That was obviously you asking him questions.
I'm disappointed with him.
Go on.
I'm really disappointed with him. The way that he's conducted himself off the pitch and the way that he's put his team together on the pitch. I'm just really disappointed in him. I'd hoped for better. I think that his general conduct, his snappiness with the media it's kind of unbecoming. It tells me, actually, it makes me wonder if this is all just too big, it's too much, and he's struggling mentally to cope with the whole thing. And I think he's made some very bizarre decisions, whether it's in how to deal with questions from the media or whether it's team selection, strategies. And it's all combined to be a bit of a mess, hasn't it? Look, I don't think too much blame could be apportioned to the manager for game number 1, other than what sort of mental kind of state were the players going into that? Because Steve Clarke came out after it and said, well, you know, people have been saying for months that this was a must-win game, as if the people that said that were wrong. Of course it was a must-win game. It was absolutely the definition of a must-win game, because you're the guys that are coming out and saying, we're going to make history here. That's the target. That's the aim, that we want to be the first side to get through out the groups. So if that's your serious aim, then you can just take it as read that you need to win the first game.
Unfortunately, it was a must-win game by 2 or 3 goals.
Exactly, Scott.
But this is where I'm wondering about the mentality and what's coming from the manager. Because see, at 1-0, the longer that game went on, I was watching our players become terrified. They looked scared of their own shadows. They couldn't keep the ball. They couldn't do the basics. It became an absolute grind. Now, see all the other small nations that have made it to this World Cup. They're out there having the time of their lives. The pressure, the strain, all the negative stuff, that was in qualifying, getting to the thing. And now they're here, the shackles are off. It's just go and play and enjoy it and express yourself and play with freedom and have some fun. Our guys look terrified. Now, why is that? Because we're talking about very senior players that have played at an extremely high level. You've got a Ballon d'Or candidate in there. You've got Aston Villa's European trophy winning captain. You've got Kieran Tierney, a £25 million Arsenal signing not that long ago. You've got Andy Robertson. Why are they scared? What are they scared of? And where's that coming from? So that was game 1. Then I go into game 2. We've got 3 points on the board. Okay, we all accept the players looked as if they took a bit of stage fright in the second half against Haiti, but the 3 points are on the board. Now you've got nothing to lose. Now you've got a game against Morocco, knowing full well your final game's going to be against Brazil, and you're going to need 1 point out of these 2 games. Who in their right mind, really, turns around and says, and I've had arguments with people over here about it, other guys in the media, you know, oh, Morocco, right good. Yeah, I'm not doubting, I'm not saying Morocco aren't a right good side with really good players. If anybody wants to have a stand-up argument with me about are Morocco better than Brazil, then I don't know what you're watching. Anybody that actually seriously thinks Morocco are a more difficult, talented opposition than Brazil, they need their head looked at. That's where I've got a problem. We've gone into that game knowing we're going to need a point out of the 2 remaining games. And we told Morocco, with Steve Clarke's team sheet, we told Morocco, we've not come here to get involved. We've come here to try and stay out of trouble. We're not going to threaten you. We're not even going to try to threaten you. And I know there's the theory goes, promoted probably by Steve Clarke, that Morocco tend to run out of steam, which they do. They drop a level. They're so intense in the first 45 minutes, they do drop off. The game plan all along was keep it tight, keep it as tight as you can, hope that their energy levels go. And I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. And also, I don't care if that was the plan, because it wasn't a good one, because we ended up losing 1-0 and we're out of the World Cup. For me, we had to go and attack that game. We had to get Ben Gannon Dope on the pitch. We had to look to get forward. We had to look to threaten them. They looked at the team sheet. They knew what our intention was, to try and soak it up. And they had nothing troubling them defensively. So they just kept coming forward in bodies and they had no reason to stay on any kind of state of alert at the back. And they absolutely swallowed us up from that point on. They just came forward. They knew there was nothing, there was no reason to mind the back four. They totally dominated and played the game at their pace. We gave that game up. And that one is attributable to Steve Clarke and his tactics for me, and whatever mindset that he'd got the players into. Then in the third game, we actually, Scott and I totally agreed. It was the right starting 11. It was the right approach. It was the best game of the 3 in terms of performance levels. Individual errors have killed us, and the fact that, you know, Vinicius Junior's one of the best players in the world. But see, if we'd taken that approach into games 1 and 2, we're probably not sitting here having this conversation right now. That's what I find so frustrating, because that's what was promised. We weren't going to do it again. And see, when it came to shove, Steve Clarke couldn't help himself. He reverted to type, and he got overly cautious and tried to be overly clever. And once again, I keep coming back to it. Instead of going out there, playing our football, enjoying what we do, looking to create and cause problems and just have a bit of fun in a game of football, we were the opposite of that. The Morocco game was absolute opposite. We looked terrified all over again, and it can't keep happening.
There's one guy on Facebook who completely agrees with you, Keith. Phil writes in saying Clarke blew it with the way he lined up the team against Morocco. Only 1 win in 9 tournament games is shocking. It's rinse and repeat with Clarke. Scott, do you agree with the Morocco stuff?
I do. What I don't get about it, Daniel, is, and I'm sure Jack will agree with me, is there seems to be this kind of narrative that, you know, Scotland under Steve Clarke, we're this team that's really hard to beat, and we can defend and we can backs against the wall. We don't keep clean sheets. Our defenders aren't they good enough?
Our defenders are accident prone, as has been proved over the last couple of games.
So if your defence isn't good enough to keep clean sheets, I couldn't say for certain. I'm thinking back, Jack, to qualifying. I don't think we've kept a clean sheet since the Belarus game in Hungary. We were at in front of no fans. We won, I think it was 2-0 that night. I think we've kept a clean sheet since then. In fact, we've lost quite a lot of goals to Greece and Denmark and that. So I don't think we're good enough defensively to go into games and be that kind of hard to beat, low block team who keeps better teams out. I don't think that's an option for us, because our defence isn't good enough. Now, again, we'll say it again, we're not expecting to go gung-ho against teams that are better. But our better players are middle to front. There's no denying that. The best players are in midfield. And I know maybe we do lack goals. But Shankland and Adams in particular are still two decent players playing at a good level. And the likes of Doak and Christie and even young Curtis, who's come into the squad, you've got players that are confident going forward. I don't get why, as Jack touched on, in the Morocco game, you would think, right, we're up against a team that's better than us. No, we'll try and just stay in the game. We'll try and keep compact, keep it tight. I don't think we're good enough
what you telling your own players when you do that as well? No. If I've come to the World Cup and I'm Scott McTominay, I'm thinking, wow, I can light this up. You're telling your own players, guys, we're not going to be good enough to mix it with them the way that you would want to do. So here's the plan.
Yeah.
We talked about in Germany the team almost being overcoached, that they were frightened to move 2 yards out of the position that had been dictated where they had to be at any given time in any of the games. That's what that Morocco game felt like to me. It was a return to that. By the way, I'm not absolving Scott McTominay. I blame. He's been cutting about with the sunglasses on, the hair cream and all that, looking $1 million. He's been, followed about all over this World Cup by his SFA sort of flunkies that are there to prevent people with cameras or dictaphones or microphones getting in front of him. So he's been given the full superstar treatment all the way through this campaign, which I don't mind. That's fine. Tell you what though, see if you're going to do that, going to try and turn up like a superstar when you get on the pitch, because he's hardly come to his work at this tournament. Now, is that because what he's been asked to do? Has he not been allowed to play? I don't know. But I've not been impressed, and I wasn't impressed with his body language either against Brazil. And I thought he was fortunate to come back out for the second half. I think if I was the manager at that moment in time, even regardless of how important he's been, I think I'd had to have a right word with him at half time, because it's just nowhere near what you expect. And I know
just didn't turn up.
Sacrilegious to say it because of the work and the goals that McTominay scored for Scotland to get us into a situation like this. That's 3 tournaments not turned up for. And again, sacrilegious. Love John McGinn, but he's not at a good tournament either. So the guys that we're looking to be the talisman and the leaders and the inspirations and the difference makers, for whatever reason, is it because of their loss of form? or is it because they've been stymied by what they've been asked to do and the way the team's been set up? I don't know, but it can't go on like this.
The sad thing about McTominay is I would love to hear his thoughts on
But he
why
won't
he's
speak.
not had a poor.
He's too good for that.
Why he's had a poor tournament. Aye, as you said, I don't know if that's his choice, if that's SFA's choice. They don't want him speaking. I don't know, but it'd be really interesting because Scott McTominay, the high standards that he's set. There's no way he'll think that he's done himself or the team justice at this tournament with his performances. So he must surely he'll feel there's certain reasons for that. And listen, it's just my curiosity, but it'd be interesting to hear what he's going to say, but we probably won't find out.
Well, Scott, John in the comments asked directly, why do you guys think our big players have yet again failed to turn up in a tournament? And I would just throw in at the start my 2 cents. I said this to you guys last night. I've got a friend that supports Villa, and he says every time I watch Villa, John McGinn plays on the right, and he's brilliant. He scored that brilliant goal, I think, against Arsenal from the right-hand side, set a goal up in the Europa League final from the right-hand side. We come into the World Cup and we play him left mid, and I know he can do that. He's a really good player. He can play there, but it's not his best position. That's just McGinn. But what do you guys think?
No, it's no. But if you want Gannon Doak in the team, you probably need to play him right. So John McGinn, he can play left. Or listen, you could have tried Gannon Doak wide left. I'm sure he's capable of playing there and cutting in his right foot. Well, it's hard to know the reasons because we said coming into the tournament we felt Scotland might be one of the freshest teams at the tournament, unlike Euro 2024 when it felt like our top players had played a barrel load of games that season. It was a long domestic season and most of them had played throughout it. They looked jaded in Germany. They looked tired. We certainly felt it was going to be different. This time most of our top players, McTominay's obviously played a lot of games, but
he had a layoff. He had an injury layoff.
He was out for a while.
So his games were down.
Yeah, as did John McGinn. Andy Robertson's not played anywhere near the amount of game time at Liverpool as he has done in previous seasons. You think the fullbacks, Hickey and Patterson, haven't played a lot of football. You could get right through the team. Grant Hanley, I know John Suter didn't play, but he's similar. Lewis Ferguson, even at Bologna, has been in and out because of the rotation policy. So it felt as if they were going to come in, and Lewis Ferguson actually did. He did look fresh, and did look as if he did have a strong tournament. But in terms of the reasons, it's hard to pinpoint. Again, is it the manager's instructions? Is it the tactics? Is it just stage fright, as Jacko touched on in the first game? Getting over those kind of nerves with the pressure.
Why would these players with the experience they've got? Why would they suffer stage fright? I don't buy it.
I don't buy it either, Keith. I don't get that. I really don't.
The level of performance was horrendous in that second half against Haiti. So
they froze in the first game of the Euros in Germany.
Against a very good side. Against a real red hot German side who were playing in front of their home crowd in Munich. That was an accident waiting to happen. Why we suddenly lost all sort of rhythm and composure in that with the 1-0 goal lead over Haiti, I don't know. And that's what I'm interested to find out. Is it because of the messaging they're getting? Is Steve Clarke, although saying one thing, saying we're going to be bold, we're going to be aggressive, we're going to be different, is he saying that in front of people? And is he giving out a different message to the players? Because the players look terrified. They've looked terrified in all 3 games, Scott. Why is that?
I don't know. The bottom line is, Daniel, I said last night, to me, World Cups are all about moments, producing big moments. And nearly every other team in this tournament at some point has come up with a moment. A player has produced something, whether it be a bit of skill, whether it be a long-range shot, a brilliant finish, whatever it might be, to give their team and the nation a lift. Our players haven't produced any sort of moment. The fans, I don't think, have even had a moment to savour and enjoy.
With a double ricochet against Haiti, and that's that.
I was thinking about that this morning. That goal for John McGinn, which obviously was a winning goal, aside for the deflection, if you actually think back, John McGinn thought Shea Adams was offside. He didn't even celebrate it.
That's right. You're right.
He normally would have said that after the game. So the punters probably couldn't even celebrate that. properly that day in Boston because we were worried it was going to be chalked off by VAR. So there's just no been we're now went through the second tournament in the trot, Euro 2024 and then this World Cup. Not a single moment for the Tartan Army to really savour and enjoy and remember for the rest of their days. Of course, they'll remember the days and nights out in Boston they had and the time they've had in America. That's been incredible. But in terms of the actual football and the games, they've no came up with a moment. And that's the real shame, I think. And you talk about players having regrets coming out of a major tournament. That will ultimately be the big regret because they're capable of it. He said that. John McGinn, I think the moments that John McGinn's produced for Villa, the moments he's produced for Napoli, and look, they've produced them for Scotland as well. None more so in November with the finish to the Denmark game. So they're capable of it, but on the biggest stage, when it's really mattered, they've not been able to come up with anything. That's a real shame.
I know time's getting away from us, guys, but we've got honestly so many brilliant comments coming in tonight, and we massively appreciate it. We're doing this obviously back home. It's 9:30 on a Friday night, so everyone getting in touch, we massively appreciate it. Neil writes in saying a lack of preparation and proper instruction can look like stage fright. I don't think our players are as bad as they looked.
We didn't have a lack of preparation. We did the complete opposite of a lack of preparation. We've had the best preparation that money can buy.
Yep.
They've spent time together. They've been lifted and laid. We walked past the team hotel. We chanced upon the team hotel here in Charlotte that they've been in since the start of this month. Talk about palatial. My God, there is no lack of preparation here. Every stone has been uncovered to try to give them perfect, because there was a little bump in the gums, a little bit about Garmisch and the setup there. So they have gone 6-star treatment here. There is no qualms whatsoever with the preparation. It's all to do with the playing.
The comment I put up a moment ago there was from Ross saying, Keith and Scott, why do you think Clarke was given a new contract before the tournament, and what merit does he get a new contract? 3 tournaments, 3 failures. There's another comment, I think it's from Ross as well, actually, I was going to put up, saying, Scott and Keith, would you keep Clarke as manager, or do you think we should just get rid now before another campaign starts? It's interesting because, again, we talked about this last night amongst ourselves. If Clarke hadn't just signed a new contract, he'd be in a very different place right now, wouldn't he?
Say that again, Dan.
Well, I'm just saying, if Steve
Clarke hadn't signed a new contract, we'd be binning him right now. We'd be telling him to take a walk.
I think that's fair. I actually said that to Keith earlier on. You think a lot of other countries at big tournaments, if they'd had as poor a campaign as we've had in terms of the group stage results and performances, I think most countries would probably just get rid of their manager. Foreign countries. I know we're probably a little bit different. We're a big bit different now because we've just given my manager a new contract before the tournament started, and that's what makes it so interesting in terms of the aftermath, what that's going to look like. I said to you the other night, Dan, I don't think the SFA, Ian Maxwell and Mike Mulroney, I don't think this will shift their attitude, their approach towards Steve Clarke in the slightest, because I spoke to both of them in the build-up to the tournament, and they couldn't have been more effusive in their praise of Steve Clarke. I mean, to them it was an absolute no-brainer to give him the contract that he wanted before the tournament. And I touched on it last night. My problem with that is it goes back to this attitude of just being grateful to get to tournaments. We've just been grateful to get there and get the money in the bank and give the fans party time at major finals. There's not enough emphasis been put on what we actually do when we get there. We've been to 3 out of 4 now, so you can actually say Scotland now regularly get to tournaments again because we've done it, but we've done nothing once we got there. So that's going to be the big question mark over Steve Clarke now. I don't think he's going to walk away for a 4-year.
He's not going to walk away.
A 4-year deal.
Guarantee you that.
I mean, Jamie in the comments says, how many times have Ireland and Wales qualified for big tournaments recently? At least we are making them, considering our record before Clarke came in.
And that's an important point. That is
Yeah,
an
I think it
important
is.
point. And I have to say, I think I've been very supportive over the piece of Steve Clarke for that reason. That this is a guy, albeit he got very lucky in terms of when he got the Scotland job, because he just happened to be the right man in the right place at the right time with the group of players. Other Scotland managers were, trying to pluck players out of England's championship, trying to find them a Scottish granny if they could. If you were playing the second tier of English football, you were getting a Scotland cap if we could possibly make it happen or prove that you once had a pint of tennis lager. That's completely changed for Steve Clarke. He was picking from a different pool. He was going with guys that were Arsenal players, Man United players, Liverpool players, Aston Villa players. There's the step up in the level of players that Clarke has been working with.
He did need to develop the squad, but
and he did it really well.
Scott,
he did it really.
Guys like Mikey Devlin and Eamon Brophy.
100, and so I'm going to give him his due. Although I do think he got lucky with the timing, luckier than any of his predecessors. But he still had to do it, and I think he's done so much good work in terms of identifying early doors that he had to get a core of players that were going to be there for the journey, and he was right when he said, "Do you know the key is they need to get experience, they need to get caps."
Yep.
And he's built it, and he's done it really, really well.
You're right.
But when it's push has come to shove at tournament level, there's something in Steve Clarke's DNA which makes him uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you can tell that in the way he conducts himself, whether it's in interviews or he just feels as if he's completely out his comfort zone at a tournament. The irony being that he's the guy that's broken this, so many years cast out in the wilderness. It's Steve Clarke that's turned that around, and he always deserves gratitude for that. And I've been one of his, strongest supporters over the piece because of that. But I'm afraid you can't keep I was listening to every word that he said before this tournament. Promises were made, promises haven't been kept, and I don't know now if there's a real appetite to see it happen all over again at a fourth competition.
The question for the SFA, Jacko, is right. So Steve Clarke comes in at a certain point, and as you say, no, we'd been struggling, hadn't qualified for tournaments, etc. So we needed somebody to get us qualifying for tournaments again. He's done it. He's done brilliantly. 3 out of 4 tournaments, built a really strong squad.
That's a phenomenal achievement.
Exactly, right? Guys we know 70, 80, 90 caps, that core group, and that is what was needed. I totally agree with Clarke on that. That's what was needed to get us back to a tournament. The big question for the SFA now is, right, we're now a team that gets to tournaments.
So has he taken this Scotland team as far as
Correct.
Steve Clarke can take it?
What's the next step? Do they genuinely believe, no, this manager will keep getting us to tournament and will improve, results will improve at tournaments? That hasn't happened so far in the 3. I would argue, I think there's certainly an argument now where you say, right, that if you're the SFA, you go, right, that was the kind of initial phase, if you like. We had to get a manager in to get us back to tournaments. He's done it. He's done brilliantly at it. But we're now getting to tournaments and failing every time we get there. So what is the next step? Is he the guy to take us to that next level and actually get to a tournament and do something? It's a bit like, might not be a great analogy, but you think of teams down south that get to go for the championship to the Premier League.
Yeah.
They'll go up like 2, 3, 4 times in 5 years, but they just come straight back down again.
It's the Daniel Farker.
Aye, that's exactly what I was going to say.
He's broken that circle this season at Leeds, but that was the accusation even before the start of the season. Daniel Farker is a brilliant guy to get you into the Premier League, but he's the worst man in the world for keeping you in it.
Exactly. So at what point do you say, right, we get there, but we need a different type of manager to keep us in there? That's...
There's a couple of people in the comments, guys, that are saying, I mean, Kenneth one says Clarke will walk, I think, because he can't take Scotland forward anymore. Andrew says as well, I think he'll walk. I agree with you, Keith. I think there's any chance of that.
How is Steve Clarke having worked so hard? And by the way, let's get it right. Steve Clarke ran rings around the SFA ahead of the World Cup. He said that he wanted his contractual situation sorted out. He kind of strong-armed them. He left them in a situation where the SFA hadn't put that contract to the table.
Hadn't he about getting back to club
talking
football?
About club football, talking about he was putting himself up. He did an interview, although he doesn't like journalists clearly, And he makes a big deal about that, and I find that frustrating because I think the media in this country has been really supportive of him over the piece. But he did an interview with an English newspaper, an English journalist ahead of the tournament, which was then published as we were heading out here. That was all about, because at the time that he did that interview, he wanted it to be known down south. I'm available. I'm ready to talk. And he mentioned at the press conference a couple of months before the World Cup, oh yeah, I need to find out what the SFA want, because if they don't want to speak to me, I need to speak to clubs. He made it high profile. He used the media to make it high profile. He strong-armed the SFA with it. And ultimately, the SFA, why they made it a 4-year deal, I have no idea. But they did. So I can only imagine that was in Steve Clarke's terms, that he wanted the 4 years. And now they've got this issue of what happens next. It's a really strange one.
Well, look, before we wrap up, guys, I just want you to maybe sum up your overall thoughts, not just the football, the tournament as a whole. I mean, it's still been amazing to be at a World Cup, but how will you guys reflect on this tournament when you get back home?
I've loved it, Dan. No, apart from Scotland's results, obviously. An epic trip, places we've been to, a lot of flights, right enough.
Some new favourite restaurants.
Definitely a couple of new favourite restaurants. But it's been brilliant. I think we've been to Fort Lauderdale, New Jersey, Boston, Charlotte, Miami. This is our fourth time in Charlotte over the course of 27, 28 days. So it's been absolutely amazing. I've loved it. We've had a great laugh. Been to stadiums. I wasn't a huge fan of the Miami stadium, I must admit. Boston was a different kettle of fish. Boston was amazing. Seeing how the punters were received as well, it was just brilliant to be in that and be part of it. So, it's been an incredible trip. So glad that we made it. So glad that we've been here. But as usual, kind of typically Scottish, we're going home. I think we'll probably go home Sunday into Monday, and it'll be with a lot of regret, really, that we couldn't have done better and went a bit further.
Keith?
Everything Scott said, I would kind of underline. It's right, in terms of us, you being out, Dan's been great, right? So
that's unbelievable. Thanks, guys.
We Billy big time, eh? First trip's a World Cup, unbelievable.
Only does World Cups.
Only does World Cups. And then what about that incident at the stadium the other night?
Keith, you're breaking up. Keith, we need to move on.
Incredible.
He's already posted it in his social media. The whole world knows about it.
And I'd like to point out, Scott said to me you should definitely post him.
Hold on, Dan. Instead of sitting down with R9 and Kaka and getting an exclusive interview, can I get a wee selfie? And by the way, have you ever seen anybody looking so pleased with himself? We've just been effectively parked out the World Cup 20 minutes earlier, and he's wee Dan's cutting about with a massive big grin on. He's selfie master.
He's come up with some cock and bull story about not being allowed into
I've heard this.
I've got proof of that. I'm getting stitched up here. I sent Scott. Keith, I sent Scott a picture of my passport. Anyway, we'll talk about this.
Very prickly, Dan.
Very prickly.
I would just.
That's it.
I would like to finish by saying it's been an incredible experience, probably the best in my career so far. And you guys have been, I'm talking about Keith and Scott now. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging about you. You guys have looked after me so much, so I'm very thankful for that. And thanks, guys. Andrew says, and I think it's a perfect way to the end, he says, I'd like to say, though, this show's been brilliant throughout the World Cup. There's no BS with the Daily Record boys. And Alien says, I'm very proud of you all bringing laughter and joy. So I think it's a very nice way to end the show if this is our last World Cup show. It's been incredible. I don't know. If the 0.5% miracle comes in.
Aye.
Oh, by the way, could you imagine that? We're sitting up trying to keep matchsticks in our eyes, watching Uzbekistan versus Daily Record Congo. And something happens, and all of a sudden, by the way, we're back on air, guys. We'll unpack the bags. Don't unpack them. Pack them up again. We're heading to Mexico. We're heading to New York.
I'm blocking Dan's number after this. I'll not be on any life. Trust me.
We'll see about that. We'll see about that. And very final thing, thanks for all the comments. They've been amazing. Without anyone watching it, I guess we don't have a show. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the comments.
We do.
Keith Scott.
Nobody's watching it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Keith Scott will see in about 35 seconds. And to all of you back home, thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in throughout the World Cup. And after a little hiatus, we'll be back to do it all again throughout the 2026-27 season. And we hope you join us then. Keith Scott, absolute pleasure as always.
Cheers, Daniel.
So long, Dan.
Thanks, folks.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching.